The rain fell in thin silver lines, tapping against the high steel walls of the alien prison yard. Beyond the gates, the jungle wetted dark, wet, and endless. Inside the largest cage, the predator paced slowly, its heavy paws making no sound on the metal floor. Its fur was black as night, broken only by the faint glow of its yellow eyes. Every step it took felt like a silent threat. The alien council stood at a distance, watching. 6 of them, tall and armored, their blue skin glistening under the wet light. They spoke in low voices, but the predator's ears twitched, catching every tone. It did not understand their words, but it understood their smell, fear, anger, hesitation. It had learned many things in captivity. Council leader Zarik raised his hand, signaling for quiet. "This creature," he began, his voice sharp, "has killed 37 of our soldiers. We have caged it for months, but we have no reason to keep it any longer. The humans who commanded it are dead. It is alone." Some of the council members nodded in agreement. Others shifted uncomfortably. One alien soldier stepped forward. "With respect, leader, killing it would be safer. It is a predator. If we release it, it will return to hunt." Zarik's cold eyes moved to the cage. The predator had stopped pacing. It stood still now, head low, eyes locked on Zarik, as if it understood every word. "No," Zarik said finally. "We will release it. We will show mercy. Let it vanish into the jungle. Let it die on its own." The word mercy spread among the group like an uncomfortable whisper. To them, mercy was not kindness. It was arrogance. They believed they were the masters of this world, and in their arrogance, they believed the predator was broken. The gates creaked open. The sound was slow and painful, like metal screaming. A rush of damp air swept inside, carrying the smell of wet earth and rotting leaves. The predator stepped forward, slow and steady. It did not run. It did not roar. Its movements were calm, almost thoughtful, as if the jungle outside was a place it had been waiting for. Alien soldiers raised their rifles, their claws tight around the triggers. One false move, and they would fire. But the predator ignored them completely. It walked past the open gates, its paws sinking into the mud, its tail low but steady. The rain soaked into its fur, but it didn't shake it off. It simply kept walking, vanishing into the green shadows beyond. The soldiers lowered their weapons. One of them laughed. "That's it. That was our great enemy." Another grinned. It looked almost tame. Zarik turned away, dismissing them with a wave. "It is gone. We will not see it again." They were wrong. That night, deep in the jungle, the predator moved like a ghost through the trees. It left no tracks, no sound. It hunted nothing, took no prey, and drank only from the rain that fell from the leaves. It was not hungry for food. It was hungry for something else. A faint light glowed in the distance, a flicker of fire in the darkness. The predator slowed, its ears tilting forward. There was a smell in the air, sharp and warm, filled with the memory of blood and smoke. It knew this smell. It had known it before the cage. It belonged to him. The human sat by the fire, a crude shelter of branches above his head. His arm was bandaged, his face pale, but his eyes were alert. When the predator stepped into the circle of light, he did not reach for his weapon. He only stared, unblinking. The predator stopped just beyond the fire's edge. For a long moment, neither moved. Then the human spoke softly, in a voice that carried no fear. "You came back." The predator tilted its head. the rain dripping from its fur. It took one step closer. The human's hand lowered slowly to the ground, palm open. The predator's nose brushed it, and for the first time since its release, its tail moved, just a faint flick. A silent signal of recognition. Somewhere far behind them, in the alien city, the council celebrated their mercy. They believed the predator was gone, wandering alone in the wild. But here, in the jungle, something far more dangerous was happening. The predator had not vanished. It had returned to the only master it had ever chosen. And in the human's eyes, there was no mercy, only purpose. From the darkness, a howl rose, low and deep, carrying through the trees. The human smiled faintly. "Tomorrow," he said, "we hunt." The predator sat beside him, its yellow eyes glowing against the firelight. The rain kept falling, the jungle kept breathing, and somewhere, in the night, the war had already begun again. Asterisk for days after the release. The Alien Council received no news of the predator. Scouts moved through the jungle in teams, scanning for tracks, listening for roars, but there was nothing. No footprints in the mud, no signs of a kill. It was as if the beast had vanished from the face of the world. Some believed it had gone, far away, deep into the uncharted lands. Others joked that it had drowned in the swamps or been eaten by something bigger. The idea of the predator dying alone in the wild brought the aliens comfort. It meant they had been right to show mercy. But they were wrong. Far from their cities, deep in the thickest part of the jungle, the predator was alive, and it was not alone. The human survivor moved like a shadow under the trees. Every step was silent, his eyes always searching the ground. Ahead, he had been living here for weeks, since the last battle had scattered his squad and left him for dead. His body was thin, his uniform torn, but his will was iron. And now, he was no longer just surviving. He was training a weapon. The predator followed him closely, its massive paws sinking softly into the wet earth. It no longer stalked ahead like a wild hunter. It watched the human, learning how he moved, when he stopped, where he placed his feet. When the human crouched, the predator crouched. When he stilled, the predator froze like stone. They were becoming one in movement, in silence, in purpose. At night, they hunted together. The human would point, and the predator would vanish into the undergrowth. Seconds later, there would be a rustle, a muffled cry, and the predator would return, its jaws dripping with the blood of alien scouts. No sound escaped to warn the others. Each kill was clean, precise. The alien patrols began to disappear. First, one scout team went missing. Then two. By the fourth team, the council could no longer ignore it. "This is not the jungle killing them." Council leader Zarek growled in the war chamber. "This is something trained, something that knows us." An older officer leaned forward, his eyes cold. "You mean the predator?" Zarek's jaw tightened. "No, that is impossible. It was alone. It has no reason to hunt us now." The officer's voice was like a blade. "Unless it has a reason." Deep in the jungle, the human knelt by a stream, washing his hands. The predator drank beside him, its reflection trembling in the water. When the human reached out, the predator lifted its head, eyes locked on his eyes. There was no fear in those eyes, now only understanding. The human picked up a branch and drew shapes in the mud, a crude map. He pointed to one marker symbol for an alien outpost, looked at the predator. The beast tilted its head. The human pointed again, then mimed a pounce. The predator's ears flicked forward. It understood training was over. The war was beginning again. 3 nights later, a small alien outpost on the western ridge went silent. When the reinforcements arrived at dawn, they found only destruction. The gates were shattered inward, as if something huge had crashed through. Blood streaked the walls. Claw marks were carved into the metal floors. The few survivors told the same story, their voices shaking. A shadow had come first, moving faster than their eyes could follow. Its claws tore through armor like paper. Then a smaller figure appeared, carrying fire in its hands. The fire spat death, and the shadow obeyed him. In the council chamber, Zarek slammed his fist on the table. This is a ghost story. The predator could not have survived, but deep inside, he knew the truth. Every soldier who described the attack spoke of the same thing. Glowing yellow eyes and a man with them, a human. The very enemy they had thought was dead. Zarek's mistake was believing the predator needed chains to be dangerous. It didn't. It only needed loyalty. That night, the human sat by his fire again. The predator lay beside him, its breathing slow and steady. He held a small piece of alien armor in his hands, a trophy from the ridge. He turned it over in the firelight, then tossed it aside. "Tomorrow," he said quietly, "we move closer." The predator lifted its head at the sound of his voice. In its eyes, the reflection of the fire burned like the promise of war. And somewhere, far in the alien capital, fear began to grow. Because their mercy had not set the predator free, it had made it stronger. It had given it a master. The alien council met in silence. No one wanted to speak first. The attacks had grown bolder closer to the capital. Supply convoys vanished without a trace. Radio towers went dark in the middle of the night. Every survivor told the same impossible story. The predator has returned, and it follows a human. Council leader Zarek refused to say the words out loud. Admitting it would mean admitting his mercy had been a mistake. Still, the fear was growing. Not just in the soldiers. In him, at the edge of alien territory, the jungle trembled. Birds burst from the treetops. Small animals ran in every direction. Something was moving fast. An alien watchtower stood on a rocky ridge, its soldiers scanning the horizon. They saw nothing but the green ocean of trees. Then, without warning, a shadow streaked from the foliage. The first guard barely had time to shout before he was gone, dragged screaming into the undergrowth. Another tried to raise his rifle, but a blur of black fur slammed into him, snapping bone. Panic erupted. Through the chaos, the predator moved like liquid death, claws tearing through armor. It didn't kill randomly. It killed with precision, removing threats, one by one. Then, out of the smoke, a human stepped into view. Not running, not hiding. Walking. His rifle rested against his shoulder, his eyes cold and steady. When he spoke, the predator paused mid-strike. One short whistle. The predator obeyed instantly, pulling back and circling to the human's side. The soldiers stared in shock. This was no wild beast anymore. It was trained, controlled. Back in the capital, Zarek stood before a map littered with red markers. Each one was a place the predator had struck. The pattern was clear. Now these weren't random raids. They were moving in a line toward the capital itself. "This is not war," an officer said grimly. "This is a hunt." The human knew the fear he was building. Every strike was planned. Every survivor was allowed to live for one reason: to tell the story, he and the predator. moved mostly at night, striking fast, disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. The jungle was their shield, their weapon. By the time alien forces reached a site, they found only silence, blood, and claw marks, and the closer they came to the capital, the more the predators seemed to understand the mission. It was no longer the same creature the aliens had caged. It had purpose, now his purpose. One afternoon, a heavily armed alien convoy was moving supplies to a forward base. The soldiers were nervous, eyes scanning the shadows. They knew the stories. They were expecting an attack at night. The attack came at noon. The first truck exploded in a burst of flame, the road blocked by fallen trees. Soldiers scrambled for cover, shouting orders. Then the predator leapt from the canopy above, landing. In the center of the convoy, its claws shredded tires, flipped armored carriers, tore through metal as if it were cloth. Panic spread. Some fired wildly into the jungle. Others tried to flee on foot. Then they saw him. The human walked calmly down the center of the road, the predator pacing at his side like a shadow. He didn't need to shout. A single gesture sent the predator tearing through the last of the resistance. Within minutes, it was over. The road was silent except for the crackle of fire and the low growl of the predator. The human knelt beside an alien officer, still alive, but too injured to move. He leaned close, his voice barely above a whisper. "Tell your council, we're coming." He let the officer live, because fear was more useful than death. By nightfall, the story had reached the capital. Every soldier now believed the predator was not only alive, it was smarter, faster, and deadlier than before. And it had a master, a human master. In the jungle camp that night, the human sat, sharpening his blade by the fire. The predator rested. Beside him, head on its paws, watching. The two didn't speak, but they didn't need to. They understood each other. In a way words couldn't explain. The human looked toward the faint glow of the alien city in the distance. "Tomorrow," he said softly, "we show them your face in daylight." The predator's tail moved once a slow, deliberate flick. It was ready. The alien capital was awake long before the sun rose. Rumors of the predator's daylight attack had spread like fire. Soldiers lined the city walls, weapons ready, scanning the jungle for any sign of movement. Merchants closed their shops. Civilians stayed indoors, whispering the same phrase over and over. "The predator walks with a human." Council leader Zarek stood in the war chamber, staring at the glowing city map. "Double the patrols. Seal every gate. Nothing enters or leaves without my order," he commanded. But deep in his chest, a knot of unease tightened. Predators didn't obey humans, not unless they wanted to. The morning air was heavy with heat. The jungle beyond the walls looked calm, even peaceful. Birds sang, leaves swayed in the wind. Then the singing stopped. A ripple moved through the treetops, as if the forest itself had taken a deep breath. From the shadows, a shape emerged. First, the predator's head appeared, black fur glistening in the sun, yellow eyes glowing like molten gold. Its muscles rippled as it stepped into the open, moving with a deadly grace that made every alien soldier tighten their grip on their weapon. But it wasn't alone. Walking beside it, calm as if he were on a quiet road, was a human. Dust clung to his boots. His rifle hung across his back, and his eyes were locked on the city walls ahead. There was no fear in them, only intent. The predator matched his pace exactly step for step, its massive frame lowering slightly, ears forward, as if awaiting a command. On the wall, an alien officer hissed, "What is this?" Another soldier's voice trembled, "It's trained. He controls it." The human stopped, just short of bow range. He raised one hand and pointed at the main gate. The predator sat dot. Every alien watching froze. The beast they had caged, mocked, and released was obeying him like a warhound. Inside the war chamber, Zarek's blood ran cold. This wasn't just an attack, was a message. The human wanted them to see, to understand, to fear. "Kill them," Zarek ordered. Archers took aim, but before the order could be carried out, the human whistled short, sharp, commanding. The predator's body coiled like a spring, then exploded forward. It hit the wall with such force the stone cracked. Claws tore through defenders before they could fire. One soldier screamed as the predator dragged him from the wall and dropped him into the dust below. The human followed through the chaos, firing with deadly precision. Every shot found a target. Every step brought him deeper into the city. The streets erupted into panic. Civilians fled. Soldiers shouted orders. No one followed. The predator moved like a living shadow, weaving between alleys, striking from behind. When the human pointed, it attacked. When the human waved his hand, it stopped instantly. In one narrow street, a squad of alien elites tried to surround them. The human simply said, "Clear." The predator's growl rolled like thunder before. It tore through them, armor and all. Within seconds, the street was silent again. From the highest balcony, Zarek watched the chaos. He had thought the predator dangerous before. He had been wrong. The real danger was the human, the one who could turn a predator into a weapon sharper than any blade. This wasn't mercy. This was war with purpose. By midday, the human and the predator reached the central plaza. The alien banners still hung high, fluttering in the heat. The human stopped in the very center, predator at his side, both of them framed by the towering walls of the council's grand hall. Every surviving soldier stood back, too afraid to move closer. The human's voice carried across the plaza. "Your mercy set it free. My loyalty made it mine." The predator's head lowered, eyes locked on. The council doors. The meaning was clear. They weren't here to send a warning. They were here to end something high above. Zarek clenched his fists. This was no longer about controlling territory. This was about survival. If the predator and the human weren't stopped now, there would be no stopping them later. He stepped back from the balcony, his mind racing. "Prepare the final defenses," he told his guards. But in his heart, he feared it was already too late. That night, the city burned in 3 separate districts. The predator's howl echoed through the streets, a low, haunting sound that made even the bravest soldiers tremble. And every alien who heard it knew one thing. The predator was no longer wild. It was no longer alone. It belonged to a human, and it would obey until the last drop of blood was spilled. The alien capital lay under a dark sky, the moon hidden by smoke. 3 districts still burned, their flames licking the clouds. The air stank of ash, blood, and fear. Somewhere in the shadows, the predator's low growl rolled through the streets, like a warning, inside the council's grand hall. Council leader Zarek stood in the war chamber, gripping the edge of the table. Every remaining officer was present, their eyes wide with dread. Reports came in, one after another. Units wiped out, barricades overrun, civilians fleeing the city. This ends tonight, Zarek said, forcing the words through clenched teeth. We kill them both. No one replied. Every soldier in the room had heard the stories. Many had seen the predator with their own eyes, its speed, its precision, the way it moved only when the human told it to. They weren't facing a wild beast. They were facing a commander with the perfect soldier at his side. Outside, the streets were silent. Too silent. The human walked slowly toward the council hall, rifle in hand. The predator padded beside him, its muscles shifting under black fur, head low, eyes bright in the firelight. Bodies lay in their path, some still clutching weapons, others frozen in death with looks of shock on their faces. The human didn't hurry. Every step was deliberate, each one echoing in the stillness. He wanted them to hear him coming. He wanted them to know they had no place left to hide. At the base of the grand hall, alien soldiers stood in formation, weapons raised. The human stopped 10 paces away. The predator sat at his side, waiting. Last chance, the human said, his voice calm. Walk away. No one moved. Then Zarek himself stepped forward from the doors, tall and armored, his spear gleaming under the torchlight. You are one man, Zarek said coldly. One man and a beast. You cannot destroy us all. The human's mouth curved into the smallest of smiles. You still don't understand. This isn't about destroying all of you. It's about destroying you. With a sharp whistle, the predator surged forward. The line of alien soldiers broke instantly, some firing wildly, others stumbling back in fear. The predator crashed into them like a wave, its claws tearing through armor, jaws crushing weapons and bone. The human moved in behind it, his rifle cutting down those who tried to flee. Zarek roared and charged, his spear slicing through the air. The human dodged, firing twice in quick succession, both shots deflected by Zarek's armor. They circled each other, the predator tearing through the last defenders nearby. You think this makes you strong? Zarek spat, lunging again. You've turned yourself into a monster, just like the thing you command. The human blocked the strike with the barrel of his rifle, forcing Zarek back. I didn't make it a monster, he said. I gave it something you never could, loyalty. The fight was brutal. Zarek's spear was fast, deadly, but the human was faster. Each time Zarek attacked, the predator moved in from the side, forcing him to defend from 2 directions at once. A slash from claws here, a shot from the rifle there, death coming from every angle. Finally, the predator knocked the spear from Zarek's hands. The human closed the distance in 2 strides. Pressing the barrel of his rifle to the alien leader's chest, Zarek stared at him, breathing hard. Kill me, he hissed. Be the monster they think you are. The human's finger tightened on the trigger, then stopped. No, he said quietly. You don't deserve the quick way out. He stepped aside. The predator moved in, its massive head lowering until its glowing eyes met Zarek's. The alien leader's body shook not from wounds, but from fear. With a single command, one soft word, the predator leaped. When it was over, the plaza was silent. The alien soldiers, who had survived, threw down their weapons and fled into the night. The council was broken. The capital belonged to no one, now except those strong enough to claim it. At dawn, the human stood at the edge of the city, the predator beside him. The fires had burned low, smoke curling lazily into the pale sky. He looked back at the city. One last time, they'll tell this story, he said to the predator. They'll say we came for revenge, but that's not the truth. The predator tilted its head, listening. We came to make sure they never forget. Mercy is not a gift. Loyalty is. The predator's tail moved once, slow and deliberate, before the two of them turned and walked back into the jungle. Their war was over. For now,